The two global threats we have been speaking about all the time in this lecture have, as I said in the previous video, the potential to introduce a radical change into politics. In other words, to the potential to become, from threats, challenges to politics. But this potential has been so far widely neutralized by an array of factors. First of all, the very nature of these threats, which is abstract, too abstract for being for making it possible for common people to perceive them. Climate change is regarded as certain severe meteorological phenomena, a statistical event, first of all, and nuclear weapons who have a perception of them, and even the memory of what the people are talking about is, if any, nuclear proliferation, which is just, as I said, a sub-phenomenon. Even the memory of Hiroshima or Hiroshima is somehow fading away. There are no nuclear explosions, thanks God, and Manhattan doesn't go so far underwater, and if the Bangladeshi shores go underwater, the rest of the world doesn't care. That means that the two global threats are not based on events, whereas political communication in our days is a largely event-based communication. Then denial mechanisms are at work. Climate skepticism, both spontaneous, people who really believe climate change doesn't exist, or climate change has nothing to do with the burning of fossil fuel, or instrumentally created denial mechanism by, let's say, one coal or oil industry and so on. The protective, the passion of which Thomas Hobbes believed that it protects us from external dangers, that is, fear, has been very much weakened by certain social, psychological mechanisms, which I don't have the time to describe. And lastly, the national security illusion is still alive, the illusion that the single state can, without binding international cooperation, provide for enough security for its citizens. This is already a long and impressive list of motives that work against the transformation of threats into political challenges, but there is one more, and an aggravating one, the paralysis of democracy, which is, on the one hand, let's say, the worst case of its generalized short-termism, and also displays its inability, or the inability of present democracies to, let me use a philosophical formulation, to add time universalism to space universalism. In the good democratic people used to have, to try to have equal consideration for everybody's rights, but this only in a spatial sense for people in other countries and continents, that is among contemporaries. Our problem, particularly with climate change, is that we should have the same degree of consideration for future generations. And another feature of the inability of democracy to come to terms with global challenges is the disjunction between voters and those affected by the decisions, in the sense that the decisions we make or fail to make today will affect not ourselves, not even our children, but people who will live in a matter of centuries and who don't go to the polls on the next election. This is another break in the, let's say, traditional tissue of democracy. So, in conclusion, global challenges add a radical dimension to the problem of global governance and also to the problem of the legitimacy of global governance. You may now ask me, what is the solution? I don't think that political philosophy can provide policy solutions. I think that political philosophy does enough of its job if it proves able to identify problems, to give them names. This is what I try to do for the past videos, and to warn against wrong recipes. And I personally believe that both diverging recipes, neorealism, with the idea, for example, that more nuclear weapons may be better, may be safer for the world, but also the idea that in order to meet those challenges we need a world government. I believe that political philosophy has enough arguments in order to show that both diverging solutions are not sound. I think, on the contrary, that finding solutions is the job of the effective political process, not the outcome of philosophical blueprints, of philosophical conceptions. And I want to conclude stressing the fact that in this last lecture of part 2, ethical issues have come up, which will come up again in a different fashion in the last and fourth part of my MOOC, and I hope that you will join me later on for this last part dealing with normative political philosophy. Bye-bye.